George Jones, the Bradley Barnes Sessions, Wednesday on TNN.
The Nashville Network is a service of Gaylord Entertainment Company.
Doug.
Concierge.
Everyone wants something from Doug.
I got Miss Saigon, I got Cats, I got Les Mis, I got the Grateful Dead at Nassau Coliseum.
Dad, why didn't you say so?
And Doug thought there was nothing more seductive than money.
$3 million.
We're in business, partner.
He was wrong.
Doug.
Now Michael J. Fox will have to choose.
Trust me, sir.
For love or money.
The Disney Channel continues to bring you outstanding music specials. Straight from Carnegie Hall, John Entwistle, Pete Townsend, Sinead O'Connor, and many more. Join the celebration as the Juilliard Orchestra accompanies Roger Daltrey and the music of The Who, only on the Disney Channel.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us here on the Inside Winston Cup Racing. I'm in Liberty, North Carolina at Jack Roush Racing. Two teams are headquartered here, the Valvoline Fords, which are driven by Mark Martin in the NASCAR Winston Cup Series, and the Family Channel Fords, which are driven by Ted Musgrave. We have lots for you in this half hour of Inside Winston Cup Racing, and here's what's coming up.
Coming up, we continue our conversation about Winston Cup cars with crew chief Steve Neal. This week, Steve explains the terms caster and camber. He'll also explain how springs and shocks affect the handling of a Winston Cup car.
And we'll recap the 1994 NASCAR Busch Series Awards Banquet. David Green was the man of the hour. We'll hear from the champ and have the news and notes from the postseason celebration. Today's show is brought to you by Haviland Formula 3 Motor Oil. Add more life to your car. And by cold-filtered Miller Genuine Draft. Get out of the old, get into the cold.
For many years, the Charlotte Motor Speedway has hosted a media tour in January, giving reporters and broadcasters an opportunity to visit many of the drivers and the teams in the Charlotte, North Carolina area. This year, there were 150 reporters from 22 states that went along on the tour, and so did our Bill Weber, and he files this report.
This segment of IWCR is brought to you by Texaco Haviland Formula 3. Add more life to your car. Reporters from across the country rolled into some of the busiest shops on the Winston Cup circuit this week to visit with many of the top teams as they prepare for the 1995 NASCAR season. The tour is an annual project of the Charlotte Motor Speedway and unlocks a behind-the-scenes look at the cars and invites open conversation between drivers, crew chiefs, car owners, and the National Press Corps. It serves as a high-speed highway that brings race fans the latest news from the most hectic month of the year. Luncheons and race shops mix business with business. 1994 Winston Cup champion Dale Earnhardt used the tour to announce his Richard Childress Racing Chevrolet Monte Carlo is now sponsored by GM Goodwrench Service. And coming off back-to-back titles, Earnhardt is confident he can make a challenging run at the sport's rarity, the three-peat.
You know, a lot of people think, well, you know, he's won 7 or they've done this twice now for the last 2 years, and they're going to get a little less hungry, but I really feel better about this year than I did last year. The new Monte Carlos are showing some promise. I feel good about the new cars. And that's another thing. We're getting pretty much all new cars this year, and I've been racing some older cars. But they're working really hard up there, putting new equipment together, and I feel better about this year than I did 94 starting out. I'm excited about it. Two, like I say, we're going to focus harder, and I've been watching my health and getting a little more physical, and I think they're in trouble. I'm going to bear down a little bit this year.
Earnhardt will test at Daytona the week of January 23rd, then just around the corner, the Daytona 500, the first step toward defending his championship.
You win that championship and win several races, but the thing is you want to win all the races in the championship. And I felt like we should have won a few more races this year, and we were close, and we were right there a couple times and felt like we should have won, but then ifs doesn't win you the championships, and ifs don't win you the Daytona 500. So we're going to Daytona and focus on that race and another championship. That's what it's all about. We got to take Good Wrench and Snap On and Food City and all these folks to the championship and see if we can't do it again.
One hot topic of conversation, the expanding Winston Cup racing schedule, which currently stands at 31 events for 1995. But with tentative plans to build tracks in cities like L.A., St. Louis, and the Dallas-Fort Worth area, the question is, could some current tracks lose valuable race dates?
I think absolutely. I mean, as far as the fans go, and I know from our standpoint, I'd much rather run at a track similar to Charlotte, located in Dallas or St. Louis, than run the second race at some of these tracks we go to where we can't pay the tire bill after the race is over, and you can get 40 or 50,000 people into the place. I think that the sport's grown, the TV demand, and the spectators throughout the country. We've got the way this sport's growing, we don't have a choice. I think we've got to step out.
We're outgrowing some racetracks, and the racetracks that have kept up with growth and expansion, Richmond for one, I think will be there forever. And there's opportunity there for everybody to expand that's got the dates. I think we need to race in places like Denver, Colorado, and St. Louis, Missouri, and Southern California. And I think we need to broaden out really, because our sport it needs that. Our sponsors they're backing us so well, and it takes so much to run these organizations now. We need to justify with taking them more places so they can broaden out their spectrum there.
Kyle Petty's new sponsor is Coors Beer, and Kyle's new approach is all business. He's cut back on appearance dates and will focus his energy into returning his team to the front of the pack.
We had a bad 94, and maybe 94 was a wake-up call for us. Maybe it was for me, but I'm tired of that part right now. You know what I mean? And I think we've tried to assemble a team here over the last, 6 to 8 months with Barry and with Keith and with all the guys that we've added and with the existing crew that we have, that we feel like we can win races and run competitive with anybody and anything they throw at us week in and week out.
We'll have more on the media tour on Inside Winston Cup Racing next week. Still to come on this edition, we'll talk to Steve Mills, crew chief of the Valvoline Fords, and we'll also have the mailbox, so you stay with us.
So you want that tire moving. First off, it starts out more tipped in at the top, and with a short control arm, it pulls it in as the suspension goes through travel and makes even more camber. That allows the contact space of the tire to stay on the racetrack as much as possible, and that's what you want. You want all four tires doing all they can all the time.
I bought my car new in 1970. I drove a hockey team 190-mile round trip 3 times a week.
Haviland Formula 3 from Texaco.
I took good care of it. And when I reached 300,000, I thought, I've got to be a pretty good car.
No other leading motor oil offers more complete protection to help your car run better, last longer.
At 600,000, I thought, maybe it could be the Haviland.
Haviland Formula 3. Why add just any motor oil? Add more life to your car.
Something happening here. What it is exactly clear. It's time to stop till what's that sound? Everybody look what's going down.
Get out of the old and get into the cold.
Gardeners, if you love beautiful gardens full of garden fresh vegetables, big beautiful flowers and elegant landscape plantings, but hate the time and backbreaking work it takes, here's great news. Introducing the affordable Troy-Built Pony, designed and built especially for home gardeners. The Troy-Built Pony is an amazing time and work saver, turning any soil into perfect planting beds quickly and easily. Working rich organic matter into your soil, building exciting new flower gardens and border plantings. You can even reseed your lawn or dig a deep trench for planting shrubs. Plus, you'll love having your own garden fresh vegetables all season long. So if you want to learn more about getting results like this, the fast, easy Troy-Built way, call for your free catalog today. Call now and we'll also include complete details on our Troy-Built Easy Payment Plan. For your free catalog featuring the Pony and our whole line of Troy-built tillers, including our no-money-down easy payment plan, call 1-800-847-9595. That's 1-800-847-9595. Call now.
If you were not able to see our show last week, we hope you had your VCR on. Randy Pemberton had Steve Meal on. He's the crew chief for the Valvoline Fords that Mark Martin drives in the NASCAR Winston Cup Series. And Steve is leading us through the process of setting up a NASCAR Winston Cup car. And last week he talked about the basic front end of a car. Well, this week he's going to get more specific about the fine adjustments on the front end, the caster and camber.
Last week, Steve discussed the building of a chassis by Mike Laughlin and how to find the desired height of the front snout. Front and rear steer cars, how the steering gear works, and what the pieces are that turn the front wheels. Also, the position of those pieces as it relates to the term bump steer. This week, we start with the terms caster and camber as they relate to the front wheels. Both caster and camber can be adjusted by the size of the upper control arm and the spacers or shims that are placed between the control arm and the frame of the car.
This is the upper control arm. Now, you guys make these pieces, don't you? You design these and make these? Or?
Yeah, you go to, you want the right front tire to gain camber at a different rate for different racetracks. Like we talked about earlier with a bank racetrack, you don't need to gain as much camber because the racetrack's gaining the camber, if you will. It tips up for you. But you go to Martinsville, Wilkesboro, Pocono, Indianapolis, places like that, racetrack stays flat. The car rolls over, so pretty soon the tire is all out of the correct angle to keep the contact patch on the ground. So you end up building a shorter upper control arm for there and putting in more static camber. Example, at Daytona, you run a 1.5 to 2 degrees of negative camber in the right front, and you go to a place like Martinsville with 5 or 5.5. So you want that tire moving. First off, it starts out more tipped in at the top, and with a short control arm, it pulls it in as the suspension goes through travel and makes even more camber. That allows the contact face of the tire to stay on the racetrack as much as possible, and that's what you want. You want all four tires doing all they can all the time. You can adjust that
with the shim.
Yeah, you would build a shorter than normal A-frame when you went to Martinsville, and on top of that, you have some adjustment here. You just loosen these bolts and slide a shim in or take a shim out, and you also set your caster with that. You can also tilt the spindle front to rear at the top with the upper control arm. For example, you would take a washer out, a shim out here and put it in here. That skews it like this. That pulls up a ball joint back, and now the spindle goes from like this to like that. That's caster. The more caster you have in it, the easier the car is to drive, which is one of the benefits of power steering brought.
The most reliable way to see if your caster and camber are correct on the car at a particular track is by measuring tire temperatures.
Are shims something that you've taken it out at racetracks when you're trying to dial these cars?
Oh yeah, you go run a little bit and go and get your Goodyear tire sheet from the Goodyear engineers out there on pit road. You see them stick in the tires, and you read your temperatures.
The temperatures are measured on the inside edge, the middle, and the outside of each tire.
For example, if the inside of the tire was quite a bit hotter than the outside of the tire, it means that the tire is tipped up too much in the corners riding on the inside edge. So you either need to take some shims out and let it lay out at the top so it's a little bit flatter, or if you run out of shims, you need to end up with a little bit longer ball joint that physically moves the ball joint further out. So yeah, you tune that, and then like we talked about before, you tune caster for driver feel. There's different caster from right to left in the race car. You don't run the same caster right to left, and the more you put in the right, the more it's going to help the car turn in, and as you take some out of left, it will turn in better, and the driver can get out and say, man, this thing turns in too good. Well, you would close that split down. If you had 5 degrees here and 3 here, and Mark got out and said, man, that thing just really turns way too easy getting in the corner. Well, you might go to 4 and 3 or 5 and 4, depending on what Mark wanted to do, and that will take some of the no effort turning out of the car. You're driving down the highway in your car and you turn loose the wheel, it goes straight. Well, this race car is going to turn left, and you can tune that by how much static caster you have in the car.
There are many other adjustments a team has to make when trying to get a car to handle. There are sway bars, and then there are the all-important springs and shocks. The springs are different lengths and different size coils, and they're rated for how much pressure or weight they can withstand. Different size springs for different corners of the car, and of course, for different racetracks. Now, let's look at the shocks.
It's one piece that we didn't look at very closely 5 or 10 years ago. Right now, there's a lot of focus on shock absorbers, and they're making a big difference. You know, they control the ride height. They control. If you took the springs out of the car, the shock absorbers wouldn't hold it up, but they would slow down the amount of time it would take for it to hit the floor. You know, it would take longer to bottom out with the shock absorbers. And you control how the body rolls on a flat track. You control how the nose picks up on a super speedway. You know, there are just so many things about shock absorbers, and there are so many avenues towards success. Some people run real stiff shocks with a lot of control, and some people run real soft shocks with hardly any control. Some people work on their left fronts a lot. We work on our right rear a lot. You know, it's just nobody has. It's not like springs and wedge where everybody says, well, Charlotte, you run this spring in the right front and this spring in the left front, and you run this much wedge, and here's how high the roof is. You've kind of got that figured out. Now with shocks, it runs the gamut. You know, I would say that you could take the top 10 cars and just about exchange all their springs, and you'd be close. And same with their front end setups, and same with where their body setback is, and things of that nature, and their weight. But you change the 4 shock absorbers amongst the top 10 teams, I think they would be drastically different.
We hope you're learning as much as we are, and folks, we're learning from one of the absolute best in the business. We'll have more on next week with Steve Neal. Still to come on this edition of Inside Winston Cup Racing, we'll have the mailbox and also highlights of the NASCAR Busch Series banquet, so don't go away.
Hey, Jean, how are you feeling? Much better, except for this pile of bills. Oh, thanks. Wow, you weren't even in the hospital that long. Long enough. Look, bill, check. Oh, company benefit? Not a chance. That money goes to the hospital. This money is mine. Oh, who's it from? It's my first day 500 hospital cash insurance plan. You get $500 the first day you're in the hospital, then $250 every day after that. Sounds great. But I have an HMO. I don't need that. Don't count on it. Look, this is what I owe after the insurance is paid. Not to mention the mortgage, car payments. Believe me, you really need the cash. Is it expensive? It's already paid for itself the first time I used it. How can I get it? It's easy. Let me get you the number.
Call this number now, because if you're age 18 to 59, you're eligible for the first day 500 hospital cash plan. These days, if you're in the hospital, you have a lot to come home to. Higher deductibles, co-payments. No matter what type of insurance you have, and especially if you don't have any, you'll probably owe more than you think. That's why you need First Day 500. First Day because it pays from hospital day 1. 500 because that's how much you collect. $500 right up front. Then $250 every day after that for accident or illness. No deductibles, no limit to how much you collect, and no restrictions on doctors or hospitals. This is cash direct to you for every covered hospital stay, paid regardless of whether or not you have other insurance. Don't wait until you're faced with a pile of bills. Call now.
That was easy. Now I feel better, too.
If you're age 18 to 59, you're eligible for these supplemental cash benefits. Call 1-800-854-2200 for your free information from National Home Life Assurance Company. That's 1-800-854-2200.
Thursday, come home with Loretta Lynn and this week's guests Bill Monroe and Ricky Skaggs.
Draft. Our question this week is from Earl Evans from Canfield, Ohio. He writes, how much does the steering box gear ratio used by NASCAR Winston Cup teams differ from short tracks to the super speedways, and how does this affect the driver and the car?
This is Jeff Hammond, crew chief of the Kendall Motor Oil Pontiac. Today we're going to talk about steering boxes. Even though visually they all seem to be the same, internally there's a significant amount of difference in them. Each one of these steering boxes internally is different from one another. The valving as well as the ratio are different. On the short tracks, we use a 12-to-1 ratio for the car to make it turn quicker, while on the super speedways, we will slow the steering down to a 20-to-1 to make the car go through the corners smoother so the car will be faster. The difference is between a 12-to-1 and a 20-to-1, and what we do because of that, having the variety of 14, 16, and 17.5-to-1, is because of the different feel of the drivers and how they like to have their hands wind up on the steering wheel, such as when I worked for Darrell Waltrip. Darrell liked to have his right hand come from one side of the wheel to about 11 o'clock on the steering. So therefore, we would change the ratio to tailor-make whatever track we were running so he could accommodate that position. That's the way Darrell liked to have the car feel. At the same time, we also have valving changes from a light steering, which is more like a Cadillac feel, of a 235 valve to a 275 valve, which will give you a more firmer feel like some of the high-performance cars such as Camaros and Mustangs would have. Earl, we really appreciate a great question from you today and hope to see you soon.
If you have a question, send us a letter at IWCR or at Box 240-417, Charlotte, North Carolina. The zip is 28224. Now, if we used your question on the air, you'll receive this embroidered Miller Genuine Draft Jacket.
The Ford of Mark Martin will look a little bit different in 1995. This is the way it will look. Two new associate sponsors have come on, Xerox and Cummins Diesel. We'll be right back with a look at the NASCAR Busch Series Awards Banquet after this.
Next week, we'll continue our in-depth look at a Winston Cup car with crew chief Steve Meal. Steve will cover the topics weight percentages and wedge, and what it all means when trying to dial in a Winston Cup car.
And we'll talk with Jeff Gordon, the driver of the DuPont Chevrolet Monte Carlo. Winds at Indianapolis and Charlotte have Gordon riding high, but this young driver is keeping both feet firmly on the ground. The official conversion van of Inside Winston Cup Racing is Gladiator from Glavelle, America's #1 luxury van. Glavelle, the way we put it together, sets us apart.
There's one thing that a racing engine and a street engine have in common. You want them both to last.
Haviland Formula 3 from Texaco.
To build a race engine that holds up, you have to use the best of everything, and Haviland does that job.
No other leading motor oil offers more complete protection to help your car run better, last longer. Good enough for Robert Yates. Haviland Formula 3. Why add just any motor oil? Add more life to your car.
Filtered Miller Genuine Draft, the cold one. For those who've discovered its smooth draft taste, the world is a very cool place. So get out of the old and get into the cold.
It's coming. More terror than you've ever felt before. Dare you let it in your library. Stephen King's newest tale of horror, Insomnia. Now this beautiful $27.95 hardcover is yours for just $7.95 when you join the Stephen King Library. Pet Cemetery, Needful Things, Christine, the Academy Award-winning Misery. Plus Stephen King's newest books as soon as they're published, all in original hardcover editions, all at just $14.95 each, all with a cancel anytime guarantee. Call now and Insomnia is yours free for 10 days. If you're not terrified, return it and cancel. Otherwise, we'll send you a new volume every 6 weeks, each with a 10-day free trial. There's never an obligation to buy. Summon Insomnia now and enter the unearthly library of Stephen King. Get this skeleton keychain absolutely free when you order now.
Call 1-800-851-9997 now to get Insomnia. That's 1-800-851-9997.
You're enjoying TNN, the heart of country, and your #1 source for country music, entertainment, and information. If you'd like to know more about our programs or guest lineups, call TNN Information Services, 615-883-7000. For tickets, call 615-889-6611.
We hope you were able to see the NASCAR Busch Series Awards Banquet here on TNN when David Green and the Slim Jim team were honored as the 1994 champions. But if you were not, Bill Weber was there, and he files this report.
The evening was filled with awards for achievements by the best of the Busch Series during the 1994 season. Each of the top 10 finishers in the point race got his share of the spotlight and a chance to thank owner, sponsor, and crew. Johnny Benson Jr. edged out Dennis Setzer for the Penrose Rookie of the Year award after a season that included a victory in Dover and a 6th-place finish in the point race.
You know, it's great to have Penrose as a sponsor for the Rookie Challenge, and you know, I'd like to thank NASCAR and Busch Beer for being a sponsor for this also. And you know, Dennis, he ran really good this year, and we did too. I'd like to share this award with Dennis because, you know, he did win 2 races, and he ran, like I say, really good. It gave something for our whole team to try to beat also. And like I say, a lot of this has got to do with the Base Motorsports team and the owner, Bill Bumgardner, and appreciate it. Thanks.
Kenny Wallace finished 4th in the point race, won 3 races, had 15 top 10 finishes, and Saturday night was named the most popular driver.
First thing I just want to say is I love my wife, Kim. Thank you, Kim, for running the fan club and doing such a good job. And the biggest but last thing is my fans. The fans have done it all. And, you know, I try to be nice to everybody. This is a tough sport, and I know us drivers kind of beat up on each other every once in a while. Ricky, thanks for being my friend, okay? And I mean it, okay? All you guys. You know, this kind of award's kind of different. It's weird, and it brings a little bit something out of you, but racing's my life, and like I said, I try to be nice to everybody because that's what it's all about. And my wife can tell you there's been many sleepless nights because I finished second or third, and that just has to do with my upbringing, you know. So thank you very much.
In the May race at Charlotte, Chad Little suffered a variety of injuries, including a broken leg. But he managed to at least start the car the next 2 weeks, gaining valuable points with some invaluable assistance. And despite the fact he never made it to victory lane, he had 10 top 5 finishes and came home third in points.
You know, I was involved in a very bad accident at Charlotte and got banged up a little bit, and it seemed like from then on our season improved. I got better, maybe like Kenny said, a little reality check. And I really want to thank my crew who rallied around me and our sponsors who rallied around us. And MRO, I want to thank them. They shared a lot with us and my wife, Donna. And congratulations to David Green. He did a great job. And thank you, all of you.
Series champion David Green and car owner Bobby Labonte shared the excitement of Green's first Busch Series title. Green also earned a ticket to the Busch Clash for winning the most poles in the series this season. But it is the championship that brought a smile to owner and driver.
You know, I'd just like to say thanks to all the guys that work for me. You know, they're the ones that get this car to the racetrack week in and week out and make it run the whole race and without falling out. And like Charlie said, ran I think 26 or 27 races without falling out, which is really good. I'd like to thank David Green. You know, this guy came into my life, and I thought, you know, who is this guy? But I tell you what, he's been the best thing that's come around in quite some time. You know, he's a great guy, a great little driver. You know, he's a force to be reckoned with in the future.
First of all, to all my crew for their hard work and dedication the past 2 years, not just this year, but the past 2 years. To Bob and Martha Labonte for being the backbone of our race team. Thanks, Bob and Martha, for your hard work and support. And thanks to Carl Wagner, who I'm awful proud to have as an engine builder. Without his dedication and hard work for the Slim Jim team, we wouldn't be champions.
On Friday of last week, Ned Jarrett was the guest speaker at another recognition banquet. The Skoal All-Pro dinner honored the top Winston Cup crew members from the '94 season. Dale Earnhardt was named Driver of the Year, Larry McReynolds Crew Chief of the Year, and Robert Yates Engine Builder of the Year. Ernie Irvin was named recipient of the Mike Rich Memorial Award of Excellence. Here are the rest of the Skoal All-Pro First Team members.
Davy Green will start defense of his title at the Goodies 300 at Daytona Beach, Florida on February 18th. Well, our time's up for today. Hope you enjoyed the show. Our thanks to Steve Mill and all the folks here at Roush Racing for allowing us to come in here. We'll see you again here on TNN for more on Inside Winston Cup Racing.
Today's show has been brought to you by Texaco Haviland Formula 3 Motor Oil. Add more life to your car. And by cold filtered Miller Genuine Draft. Get out of the old, get into the cold. Drivers, race teams, and race fans, the 1995 Team Simpson Racing Catalog is available now. Call 1-800-71-RACIN and order your copy of the Team Simpson Catalog today.